In August 1955, a 14-year-old black boy named Emmett Till left his home in Chicago to visit family in Mississippi. He had grown up in the North, where racial attitudes were different, but the Deep South was another world entirely. While inside a grocery store, Till was accused of whistling at a white woman, Carolyn Bryant. This seemingly small act in a society built on racial segregation would lead to his brutal murder. A few nights later, Carolyn Bryant's husband, Roy, and his half-brother, J.W. Milam, abducted Emmett from his great-uncle's home. They tortured him, beat him beyond recognition, and finally shot him in the head before dumping his body into the Tallahatchie River. When Till's body was found, it was so badly disfigured that he could only be identified by a ring on his finger. At their trial, the two men were quickly acquitted by an all-white jury, who took just 1 hour to reach their decision. One juror even remarked that it would have been faster if they hadn't stopped for a drink. Months later, protected by double jeopardy laws, Bryant and Milam admitted in a magazine interview that they had killed Emmett. They showed no remorse. Emmett Till's mother, Mamie Till Mobley, made the courageous decision to hold an open casket funeral, saying, "I wanted the world to see what they did to my boy." Photographs of Till's mutilated body were published across the country, shocking the nation and exposing the true brutality of racism in the South. His murder became a rallying cry for the civil rights movement, inspiring activists to push for change. But Emmett Till's case was just one example of the resistance to civil rights. Across the South, groups like the Ku Klux Klan and the White Citizens Councils fought desperately to maintain segregation. Unlike the Klan, which used terror and violence, White Citizens Councils took a different approach. They used their influence in politics and business to make life as difficult as possible for black Americans. They pressured banks to deny loans, encouraged employers to fire civil rights supporters, and lobbied against desegregation laws. In 1956, this resistance was formalized in Congress when 101 Southern politicians signed the Southern Manifesto. This document condemned the Supreme Court's decision in Brown v. Board of Education and vowed to resist desegregation. Some state governments took extreme measures, such as cutting off funding to desegregated schools, while others simply refused to enforce federal rulings. Despite these efforts to maintain the status quo, the civil rights movement continued to gain momentum. Television and newspapers played a crucial role in exposing the violence faced by protesters. When peaceful marchers were met with police dogs and fire hoses, or when freedom riders were brutally beaten, the images spread across the country. America's claim to be the land of the free was being challenged on the world stage. Ultimately, the opposition to civil rights, however violent or politically entrenched, failed to stop progress. The outrage over Emmett Till's murder, the courage of activists, and the growing pressure on the federal government led to landmark changes, including the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. The story of Emmett Till reminds us that history is shaped by those who refuse to stay silent in the face of injustice. And though the fight for equality was met with fierce resistance, it was that very opposition that helped push America toward change.